Hello.
I don't know.
Together.
No, what you don't understand, Nate, is I am crazier.
Before I begin this analysis, I want to start with a disclaimer. I grew up consuming 2000s media. Shows like Cheaters, Maury, Jerry Springer, Steve Wilkos, and so many others were a normal part of what was on TV back then. At the time, I didn't watch these shows through modern lenses. I watched them as entertainment. So now going back and revisiting this era, I understand that audiences today may view things differently. There are conversations about accountability, about harm, and about the roles certain shows and public figures played in shaping culture. And specifically with America's Next Top Model, Tyra Banks has faced a lot of criticism over the years. And I want to be clear about my approach in this analysis. I don't believe in rewriting history to pretend these moments didn't happen, but I also don't believe in reacting without context. If something happens 15 or 20 years ago and it was publicly aired and widely accepted at the time, I think it's important that we examine it through thoroughly rather than simply dismissing it. That doesn't mean we can't critique it. It doesn't mean we can't acknowledge harm, but it does mean we should analyze it with context, nuance, and understanding of the period or the time period. This series is not about canceling anyone. It's about examining the media, the culture, and the impact. And by series, I just mean like my analysis, because this is going to be a 3-part. This will be a 3-part analysis series covering this documentary about America's Next Top Model. Each episode will have its own video because I want to take the time to properly break things down rather than rushing through everything at once. Also makes the editing easier. So now for background, my relationship with America's Next Top Model. I did not initially watch it from beginning to end. I was watching it passively. Like it would be playing and I would be sitting there and like I would see it, but I couldn't tell you any of the contestants' names or anything like that. I knew it was about modeling, but didn't really understand much beyond like the challenges. When I got older, especially in high school, I was watching reruns on Oxygen. And at that point, I approached it like a competition show. I rooted for the contestants I like. And if I'm being honest, I was rooting for anybody black.
I am. Betting on black tonight.
But I wasn't analyzing the show. I wasn't thinking about body images, industry pressures, or psychological impact. I was watching it purely as entertainment. Now in 2020, I revisited the show again. And this time I was still aware of like the things that was going on in the industry. Specifically, I watched Cycle 20 when the show introduced male contestants. And I remember being fascinated by how much the dynamic changed. It felt different, more layered, more complicated. But even then, I wasn't fully examining the cultural impact. And that's why this analysis matters. So, because America's Next Top Model wasn't just a reality show, it shaped how people view beauty, modeling, and themselves. I'm going to get into this video and we're going to break it down with Reality Check, Episode 1, On Top. So the documentary opens up with the whole Tyra, we were rooting for you, and we just see a montage about like everything that has basically happened within like these past years, modern day, in reflection of America's Next Top Model. So then Tyra sits down in the chair and you know how they do, like, let's get started, let's talk about it. So Tyra sits there and she's like, it began in like 2020. And then she talks about how, you know, America's Next Top Model basically got put back on Netflix and there were new viewership, new eyes, new modern day lenses, and everyone was just talking about how, oh, I missed this show, to them being like, what was Tyra thinking? What were these people thinking? How was this even a show, etc. And then she cuts back to like, you know, it's easy. Basically, she was like, you know, you looking at it with the modern day lenses, but this was the culture back then. And they mentioned things such as heroin chic. It's like they acted like America's Next Top Model basically basically invented this beating on women verbally, making fun of their bodies, like critiquing and like all this stuff, when in fact it was the culture back then. I lived through the time, so it's easy for me to look and be like, yeah, America's Next Top Model was just like another show in the 2000s that was doing the same thing. Their just focus was on models. But even look back at an episode of Boy Meets World where they noticed that the actress Danielle Fishel was gaining weight, and so they literally wrote a plot around her weight gain. That's just what they did in the 2000s. It wasn't just, America's Next Top Model. So again, we then cut to, what the culture was like in the 2000s. Then we cut to who Tyra is, what she does. And we talk about like her modeling career in the 90s. And basically like she was Black, and how even though she was more successful than these white models, the look was white models, you're Black, you're separate. We don't value you as much based on what you look like. And one day Tyra was like, I want to get back at the industry for how they treated me or how they talked about me. And she came up with the idea of America's Next Top Model. And she wanted to meet with this guy, Ken Mock. And Ken Mock came up with Making the Band, which created O-Town. And she came to Ken and said, I want to marry American Idol with the real world. And Ken's like, yes. But what I found funny is that Ken was like, oh, I have to have a meeting with a model. Like, she's vapid. She probably wants to have like a show about her, etc. But Tyra had this idea. Then we get into the process of the show. So then we meet Jay Alexander, because Ken's like, okay, well, who are you going to get to be the coach to do Runway? And he's thinking that Tyra's going to mention like a woman, but she's like, no, there's a 6 foot tall gay man, Black man, Jay Alexander. And then we get Jay Manuel, the 2 J's. Jay Manuel does the photography, so creative direction, things such as that. So they're basically talking about like how they were recruiting the Avengers of America's Next Top Model. And then they go into, now we have everybody, now we have to pitch the show. And everybody told them no, except for UPN. And if you just right now pause and open up a tab on YouTube and type in UPN, there should be some deep analysis about UPN and how it originally started off like a Black network. But UPN eventually combined with WB, which created the CW. So it's a whole thing, but there are excellent videos out there about like the history of UPN. And UPN said yes. So now we are at cycle 1. So, cycle 1, we're watching the casting process. We're watching how they're picking these girls, and it felt very nostalgic. There were a couple times where my eyes got eerie because these girls were like on their landline phones getting phone calls like, hey, you're going to be the next model, and they would scream and get so excited. And I'm like, reality TV is just not like this anymore. Like, this person literally looked like they were like in their kitchen. It wasn't set up for like Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, for the looks, for the optics. It was literally a girl getting a phone call from Tyra Banks being like, you're going to be on the season of America's Next Top Model. Ken Mock called it the Cinderella story, and it really is the Cinderella story. It's why, for me, especially, I enjoy consuming 2000s media, because it's so raw to me. Like, nowadays, you just don't get that. So, like I said, my favorite part was specifically seeing how the older models, and the ones we got were Shannon, Giselle, and Ebony. We got 3 of them from cycle 1, and it was nice to see them reflect positively on them, auditioning things. But then I'm going to get into where they stop reflecting positively on it. So again, jumping a little bit ahead, we have, like, they mentioned Tyra Mill, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I forgot about that. Then they mentioned Janice Dickinson. So like I said, I was a passive America's Next Top Model viewer. And by the time the reruns were on Oxygen, I don't think Janice was in those episodes. So I didn't even remember her. I didn't remember she had beef with Jay. But they did talk about how, like, Janice and Tyra were beefing, and Jay made it a point to make sure that he beefed back at Janice because Tyra was his girl. That was his BFF. Okay. So then we get to Shannon, and Shannon talks about how she had an eating disorder storyline, and she was talking about that. And, people were like talking about their struggles. We talked about Shannon's struggles, and then towards the end, we got to like Giselle and Ebony's struggles. But then we jump into, they went through everything they were talking about in regards to making cycle 1. Now we're premiering cycle 1, and now the whole world gets to see it. The ratings are strong, but we see that there is some aftermath. And this is where we get into Giselle and Ebony. Giselle and Ebony are not happy about the way that they were represented in this show. And the one thing, okay, before I get into it, I just want to say this clearly, that these girls, because they were girls at the time. I don't want to say women like they were grown, but these girls at the time were experiencing something that, you know, is hard to go through, being picked at. And by picked at, I mean like you're picked and probed and everyone's looking at your body and analyzing it. And it's truly awful and it sucks. But I have a but. You're entering the modeling industry. And for me, I know it's hard to, because a lot of times people come out with these horrible things that happen to them. And it's always like, that should never happen to you. But at the same time, you chose to join that industry. Like, CTE should not be happening to these like athletes, like especially like these football players who get CTE and brain damage. But at the same time, no one's forcing you to become an NFL player or like do sports. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe the parents are forcing you as a kid, but once you get like 18, which at least for America's Next Top Model, all these girls were at least 18, they all chose to join an industry that literally deconstructs your self-esteem. Like that's why for me, I put that disclaimer in front of my video, because it's just like, we keep attacking this industry, but it is the type of industry it is. And that's why a lot of people's parents or a lot of people around them were like, you don't want to join this industry. Giselle is Latino and Ebony is Black. And I think it was important to focus on them because, one, again, they probably couldn't get all the interviews. But from these women of color's perspective, it was important to hear. Now, if you don't know, I've said this multiple times in my videos, I am a dark-skinned Black woman. So when I saw Ebony, I thought like, oh my God, like she's so cute. This may be very bad of me to say, but it was when I was watching her, I was thinking she was cute. But I was thinking, her skin does look a little dry. And this isn't no like offense or like shade to Ebony, but like sometimes in the early 2000s or 90s, they made people look ashy. And I think it was like a camera thing because they couldn't get dark skin on there. But if you look at like Naomi Campbell and they put the flash on, she got the white like what's the word? The white, what's the word, y'all? It's the concealer, or that's not the word, but you know, the makeup. And like a lot of the Black women in the 90s were looking a little bit ashy. Now, Ebony said ashy was like an offensive term. For me, ashy just always meant you looked white, your skin was kind of dry. And I thought that while watching a documentary, and then the fact that it was brought up, and Ebony was like, you know, she even said that she expected Tyra to be on her side. And there's a saying, if you're not familiar with it, not all skin folk is kinfolk. And a lot of times I've had or been in situations where people are like, well, you're Black, why don't you look out for me? And it's like, I don't know you, and just because we have the same skin color doesn't mean I'm going to put my job at jeopardy to like help you out. Now, maybe I'll give you like some nice words, and maybe, you know, Tyra could have done that. But I also think that Tyra, because this has been mentioned from other people, not specifically this documentary, that Tyra was a little bit harsher on the Black contestants more than the white. And that automatically in me clocked too. She don't want to be accused of favoring the Black people, so therefore she's just meaner to them or like more aggressive, because she's like this, like it talked about in the beginning, Tyra was the only like, you know, Black model fitting in a lot of these places. There was a limited amount, so she's experienced it from herself. So then she sees someone like Ebony and she really isn't like, oh, I gotta cater to you, because most of the time people like Tyra aren't even gonna be in the same rooms with people like Ebony because it's so limited of them. And another thing I want to add is maybe Tyra was being nice by telling Ebony that, hey, these judges think you're ashy, because I don't think that, and I don't know if other contestants have said this, that Tyra has come to them and tell them like, hey, this is what the judges are saying, fix this. Rather, when it came to like Ebony, I think that was at least what Tyra was trying to do to help out. But again, like Ebony said, she had just graduated high school. I think when Cycle 1 happened, she was like 24 years old. So I understand that like she was very hurt by everything that was going on. She even said that her nickname was like Ugly. So I can't imagine growing up being called ugly and then you get this opportunity on this top model show, like America's Next Top Model, this modeling show. You meet someone like Tyra Banks, and then she's basically like, girl, you're ashy. Like, I can see that being hurtful, but at the same time, that's literally the industry. Like, in my head, I'm just like, to be expected. And it's like, I don't understand if that needs to be changed, that has changed the industry. But from what I've known, modeling has always been really mean, like really awful. And then as well, Ebony just wasn't happy with like the edit and the things that were being said about her. Moving forward to Giselle, I think Giselle had like a little bit different situation because for her, it was mentioned they were like, well, you got wide hips. And she was like, that to this day, like still affects me. And I don't know. I'm sorry. I can relate more to Ebony because I'm a dark-skinned woman and the struggle she's went through, I went through as well. I could see why Giselle was insecure because they were critiquing her body the same way. The frustrating part about Giselle was when people were doing like the edits, they were just like, she's insecure, she's insecure, she's insecure. And even Tyra was like, you're even walking insecure. And then Giselle even said in an interview, like, I believe, she said she like wasn't ready for the show or like should have never been on the show or something. And I believe that as well. I think that Giselle, because I think that the difference between Giselle and Ebony is very proud and strong. She may have been kind of like beaten down by these people and how they talked to her and spoke to her. But I really think that Ebony's just like strong and she's like confident in herself. And I really like that. Like, that's why I was just like, girl, you don't need Tyra to have your side. You got your own back. You are, I really liked Ebony. I just really liked Ebony and how she was hurt by the experience, yes, but she still, in my opinion, came up on top. She was the next top model, okay? Giselle just was given defeated, deflated, insecure. Like, it was just hard to like watch because it's just like you still feel like that same girl that I'm seeing in these clips from Cycle 1. Like, you still don't feel confident in yourself. And to me, that was insane because so many years have passed. And it's not about forgiveness or getting over it, but it is about what I said of overcoming. So I just wish that would like happen. I don't know how to like explain it in regards to Giselle because she even said that she believed that she wouldn't be like, she should have never been in it. And I wholeheartedly like agree with her. Like, I think that she just wasn't ready for that show, America's Next Top Model. So now we move into Cycle 2. The budget is bigger. The show has gotten all the ratings. The show is more polished. We have sets. Again, there's tension between Tyra and Janice. Jay steps in as the friend. We then get Nigel. So basically they got Nigel because they said we need a straight white man. That's basically what they said. Because they even said, like, some of the girls were like, oh, we thought like Jay was cute, but then we found out he was gay. So I think, executives stepped in and said, we need a straight white man or straight presenting white man. And then the only person we get from Cycle 2 is Shandi. Like, I keep noticing that, like, we keep interviewing this girl and we keep putting focus on her. And then I realized, oh, we have no one else to focus on what's going on. And Shandi's telling this heartbreaking story about, like, she was insecure and, like, she didn't feel beautiful, but she still went off the show because her boyfriend told her to, and how her family don't hug her. And she just, at 18, she got up, got her 2 bags of luggage and left. And her parents haven't loved her since she was a kid. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is so sad. I'm like, maybe they interviewing her a lot too because she won. No, they're interviewing her because of the Milan incident. Oh my God, y'all. I was already about to be in tears in regards to Shandi because it was so sad when that psychic came and was like, you don't get hugged, do you? Oh my God. And this is before Milan, and then Milan happened. Disclaimer, this deals with sexual assault, and we're coming to the end of the documentary. So I just want to say that Shandi was assaulted. In all the reality TV show deep dives and analysis videos that I watched, maybe because wasn't a fan of America's Next Top Model, I just didn't watch those. Or anytime people have ever complained about America's Next Top Model, is always the race swapping episode, or Tyra yelling at Tiffany. But no one has ever brought up Shandi. So Shandi was assaulted in her cycle in Milan, Cycle 2, and literally, she talks about how it was all on camera, and we cut to Tyra, And the cameraman's like, you know, the Shandi incident, do you know about it? And Tyra's like, Shandi? And then it ends. That's part 1. It ends like that. I said, y'all gotta be playing my face. And I understand there are multiple parts, but like I said, for the next 3 weeks, we're gonna be doing week by week of these documentary episodes. So I'm not gonna watch it until next Monday, and then the following Monday we're gonna watch part 3. But that is how that documentary for part 1 ends. And I'm like, first of all, the way Tyra was like, Shandi? I think I know Shandi. Like, the way she said it was like, I mean, maybe when part 2 begins, it's literally going to be like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, like, Shandi, oh my God, horrible. But literally the way it ended was like a little sneeze. Like she didn't know who Shandi was. Like, that was so, you know, it's like if someone's like 9/11, you're like, 9/11? Never heard of it. Like, oh, that's that day, September 11th. It's just a regular day. Like, what do you mean? Like, okay. But yeah, that's where we left off. So drop down in the comments your thoughts about America's Next Top Model in general, the part 1 of this documentary. What were your thoughts? What was going through your head while watching this? And I will see you in the next video. Beauty episode 7 review coming out on Wednesday or Thursday, however which one. And then next Monday, I'll be dropping a video for part 2. Bye. Wanna be on top.